very pleased to be able to present to you today some of the work that I've been doing to try and understand how we can bring robotics to support us, our mental well-being, our physical well-being as we age. And we will need to go beyond, above and beyond that to see how they augment our lives to connect better together with each other and bring us our ability to be able to achieve our aspirations in this area. So my talk is about how are assistive robotics and AI going to change the dynamics of supporting healthy aging and social care. Now, one of the things, remember, about disruptive technologies is that once they are introduced, it's not business as usual. We have to also think about what else changes around us. Our work-life balance will change, as we already know, with our phones. Our expectations of what, when, and where we're supposed to be working, and what the nature of our work is. So I think one of the key issues for us to consider that if we're going to be successful, and the word successful is a loaded term, in using and deploying these technologies, what does that mean for us and our lived experience and our processes? So I'm going to start off by giving a little bit of a background on the group that I lead and my current research, and then delve into how this all fits in with the patient care continuum and some of what Evangelia has already introduced in terms of our changing demographics, and then look at the challenges and opportunities. So starting with the care continuum. At the moment, most of the key care that happens traditionally is within the confines of hospitals. And here we see this is where there is most interaction with technology in these acute care situations. And so we have already heard about the issues facing us in terms of the shortage of staff, the resulting social isolation because people aren't able to come out of the house as well as they could. We've got underfunding in a range of areas, which includes infrastructure, transport, and support, local bus services getting axed, etc. And so that's leading to more social isolation. And then there are issues where the care so far has been reactive rather than proactive. So rather than preventative medicine, we're looking at what happens when you do have that fall. We need to get further up the chain to be able to say, how can we use technology to actually prevent and reduce hospitalization for as long as possible? And then one of the things that is an issue, it relates to the fact that the healthcare model is more about being quite patriarchal, if you like. So it is the experts know best, and then they tell you what to do, and then you sit there quite passively taking their advice. And I think there is an approach now, particularly with the advent of AI, where we're seeing an ability to democratize access to information and knowledge and be supported with making better informed choices ourselves. And so this is something that I'm very keen to explore as well. Now, it's not that we don't have robots within health and social care. If you go around places in hospitals, you will see now delivery robots. We've got cleaning robots, and surgical robotics has been around for quite a few years. We also are seeing robots emerge in terms of exoskeletons to support rehabilitation. The first one that you saw on the screen is an exoskeleton to support care professionals, providing them with additional physical strength so they're able to do heavy lifting tasks. So it supports their back. And we now need to consider, we've seen some of these technologies appear and they're promising, but how are we going to consider that we work with health and social care professionals to actually ensure that these are not the one-off technologies that are used in certain closed, constrained circumstances, but are able to cover the entire care continuum, the full patient journey, as I mentioned. We also want to see technologies become a mediator for connecting people together, so enabling accessible social connections. Additionally, we can see, and this is something that I'm going to focus on in the talk, is using embodied AI to mitigate risk and to reduce hospitalization and enable aging in place. So all of these challenges require looking at the technology from a number of different perspectives. And the research group that I lead at the University of Nottingham are looking at the various elements within the puzzle to bring all of this together. For these kinds of technologies, ensuring that they're safe to use, that they are benchmarked and they have been validated is key. And then using a participatory design approach where we've got the stakeholders at the center rather than the engineers and computer scientists deciding what's going to happen, is to look at what the unmet needs are and where this is going to fit and how to frame it. So part of the user-centered approaches are understanding the ethics and responsible research and innovation. And then being able to use these technologies and assess them and be able to validate their use in different settings. So I thought I'd start by giving a little review. Some of you might be quite familiar with this already, of what are all of these robots. When we think about robots, sometimes things that come to mind are probably things from certain science fiction movies. However, robots come in all different shapes and functions given their functional attributes. So their form factor differs. And I like to group them into these specific categories which relate to the type of service that they provide. So cleaning robots, now quite a few, some of you might have these. Can I have a show of hands? How many people have a robot vacuum cleaner in their homes? Oh, that's really good. Yep, that's many more than I usually get to see. So you can see these technologies are becoming more prevalent. We've seen delivery robots, and you can see them around in various cities across the UK now. Security robots, food preparation robots around. They come and go at different levels of automation. And some of this is quite sort of constrained and deterministic, but they're emerging. And then social companionship robots. So we've seen the ParaSeal robot, which is the one on top, used with people with dementia to help calm them down when they start to feel anxious. So it's like pet therapy when you've got something cuddly to hold. It helps to relax you. There are other platforms being used. So for well-being support, there's little buddy robot and a robot that a type of robot that I use quite often are telepresence robots for remote monitoring. So you get the expert into a situation where they can't go or the person can't come to them, and then you're able to be there and be present for them in a more immersive way. And then we've got extended living applications. These are quite interesting, and I show you a quick video of some of the things that we've been doing in our research as part of this. So I'd love to have one of these in my home, but you can see the problems with mixing electricity and water and making these work reliably. I haven't seen these on the market yet. Physical assistant robots to bring you things and help you around the house, and then other ones for monitoring healthcare. And I'll show you how these are being used to connect to other types of sensors and offer proactive support. And then mobility robots to help you get out and about. We've got the Leo Walker, the Panasonic, Stan exoskeletons, etc., that are emerging. And of course, rehabilitation robots have been around for a while. However, their use is still constrained within certain healthcare organizations. So there is still an issue around, and one of the biggest ones around cost and reliability, to take them out to where people are themselves. And then coaching and prompting is a key element of ensuring people keep up with their rehabilitation exercises. So we're seeing that emerge. So one of the big challenges are we've got robots for all of these different functions. And then we've got to think about how these robots fit in the life course of a person. Somebody like ourselves who is changing. I know as we reach a certain age, people tell you, but you have to realize it yourself when you start to actually get creaky in the morning, when you wake up and all the knee joints and things are not quite moving. So as well, so as we start to age, we see these issues emerge in terms of how well we hear and how well we can see, how well we move, but also we have lots of long-term conditions occurring together, multimorbidities, which also have an impact on how we are able to function. And quite often, one of the arguments made about technology is that, oh, well, this generation will be fine because they've grown up with technology. However, that's not the case. As people start to age, we change quite a lot of what we're able to do, our cognitive processes, being able to forgetting things, and not being able to open bottles, be able to and not be able to see things at a distance without corrected vision. And so all of these are an accumulative effect. So no matter what the technology is, how used somebody is to using the technology, their situation and the condition in which the technology would be used is going to have an impact. So how can a robot help? And what is a robot? So I'm not sure about the audience's understanding of robots. So in talks which are quite mixed, I like to start off with a definition. So we're also on the same page of what exactly is a robot. So a robot is something that can perceive, in my context of assistive robotic, perceive a person's state and their environment. Yep, so be able to sense and then be able to, using machine learning and AI, learn to recognize and predict needs and intentions. So this is not just about recognizing an existing state, but it's also about knowing what's going to happen next. And then be able to adapt its behavior or be able to adapt its function so that it can assist the person. And so through its actions and through its behavior. So a robot such as this one, quite a popular platform, um, um, struggling with some issues around sustainability, which is another element. I hope I leave enough time for Q&A in a bit. Has got a range of different sensors to be able to sense the environment and move around the environment as well. And then using all of this information, be able to support people in offering advice, etc. So what we're trying to do is, what are the things that we need to be able to track that will help us do that mitigation, to do that risk assessment of this person is likely to have a fall, this person needs more help, so an intervention now will possibly reduce their risk of that fall, or be able to catch how that long-term condition is affecting them and be able to put in the right kind of intervention, the right kind of medication to prevent progression at the faster rate than it will. So how do we measure all of that? We need to be able to see how often people are doing things. You know, are they changing their behavior? Are they using things differently? If my arthritis or my balance starts to get worse, then I perhaps am not going to be moving around my house as much as I do. Maybe I'll be moving more slowly. Maybe it'll affect my balance. So one of the things we can do is use a combination of sensors to be able to pick up on these changes early enough. So the data from these sensors can be processed to start to recognize and track the patterns and changes in our activities. So we are able to do things like recognize simple behaviors. The person's got out of bed, they're sitting on a chair, they're walking, but also complex activities. They're cooking simpler meals, because you see they're not opening all of the cabinets with their ingredients, or the meals are much shorter. They're just making sandwiches when they used to prepare a whole 3-course meal. Those are the kinds of things we're able to monitor. And one of the things that's very important in my research is being able to use already existing consumer-based technology, which is going to be accessible for more people and is going to be at a price point that becomes affordable. So I'm very much about what's already out there that's being developed in terms of a consumer market, and how do we bring that together within the healthcare scenario. And just to be able to illustrate some of this, so we did some work in being able to look at data from one of these, from the activity monitoring sensors at the top, the motion sensors, and the door and window sensors. And we were able to combine when they were triggered, what time of day they were triggered, to be able to create what I call a footprint of the person around the house over a period of days. And just using that information, we were able to distinguish between people who were starting to need help, who had early signs of dementia, and those who didn't, because their patterns of behaviors, we are creatures of habit. If you think about your morning patterns, change, how these change over time. And then we're able to use these to be able to send the information to a robot who can then learn what these patterns mean and can appropriately respond based on what it's supposed to do in terms of supporting the person in their home. So, for example, we've got a dressing robot to support people with dressing that we've developed and I worked on, and a robot to provide cognitive assistance and support in the kitchen. The robot on the right-hand side, I don't have sound, but I don't think it matters. We'll just continue. The robot on the right, the pepper robot, is helping me to heat up a meal in the microwave and talking me through the various steps. And the videos on the left, the video on the left is about learning from somebody supporting me to supporting a person to put on a jacket. And that information is captured through a range of sensors on the person and on the person who's supporting the person getting dressed. And we model all of that. So this is where the AI and machine learning comes in. And then we're able to get a robot to carry out that action. We don't have any sound, so I'm just going to skip through this. This was a video using, we do have sound.
I can run you through emergency first aid tutorial step by step. But keep in mind the tutorial only applies for small cuts and wounds. If the condition is serious, please call for an ambulance. First, you need to get your hands on a first aid kit. It's located within the first top cupboard from the left. Look for a green box with first aid kit written on top.
So it's helping me to find my first aid kit. It knows which cupboards I've opened. I purposely opened the wrong cupboard.
Can you please double check the cupboard to your left and look for a green box with first aid kit?
And then it takes, and this is using the more recent large language models to be able to generate speech in real time. We've done some prompt engineering to this, so we use another engine to do the prompt engineering. But I'm just going to stop that there. But the information provided can be contextualized to me or the end user with their particular specific sensory, cognitive, mobility needs, and the information then can be updated. Obviously, there are lots of issues in the reliability of that information, so we need the algorithms to have additional checks, meta checks of whether that information makes sense, whether it's appropriate for that person. Will they be able to understand it? Whether they'll be able to interpret and act on it. And these are larger issues where we need to bring in healthcare professionals to be able to help us understand how best to deploy these technologies. So the bigger picture is we start with sensing in the home. We're then able to combine this information with other types of information, such as patient healthcare records, and be able to develop our smart technologies to be able to learn about that person over a period of time so that the information and support is more personalized. And the types of robots delivering that will be based on the type of support people need. So over the top there, I've tried to represent what I call the digital twin model. So there is no point giving somebody advice if you don't really understand their context and know what are the issues related to their health and well-being that you need to consider in that advice. Because if you don't, then that is going to be potentially causing more harm. So what we have been doing is we've been I always press the wrong one. We've been creating various models. The video should play. Um, the video play? The video should be playing. So we've been collecting data around how people express how their particular condition is expressed in the way they move and the way they respond and the way they interact with existing healthcare technologies. And then we use that information to create models which can then be incorporated into a bigger system that forms the intelligence for a robot to be able to interact. And without these large amounts of data, without this whole environmental contextual understanding, then these systems will not work. I wanted to bring to you another example very quickly of where we've been using telepresence robots in the home so that real healthcare professionals can connect to people who have been isolated, to provide them that support. So they can be anywhere in the world, but supporting people in other locations. And we did a study where we had a 6-week program of connecting people in their homes to other people, offering them support. And we have found, I'm actually not going to play that video, that we've been able to show improvements in the person's well-being. How are you? And you can see the telepresence robot allows the person, in this case me for the video, to move around the user's space and to be able to do an assessment and talk to them in a very personalized manner. However, we have lots of different concerns expressed by people with who are the experts in this area, and the key concerns related to where we need to be focusing our research and attention mean that it's really important to consider this right at the conceptual stage. What are people's experiences and lived concerns? How do we incorporate carers' knowledge in terms of what the issues are in regards to safety, ethics, and usability in all of this? And how do we consider the various elements of the legal, social, and ethical issues in being able to develop these technologies so that they will be acceptable, they will be adopted? We have a number of barriers and challenges to consider, and these relate to understanding. Yes, it's fine to develop these technologies in the lab, but when they get deployed, how are they used? Who is trained to use them? Where is the data stored and kept? And even applications and technologies that have already been developed and available and are available to use, and they've got good apps to support them, there are still challenges, because if somebody needs to use a hand exoskeleton, how on earth are they going to be able to use a mobile phone to set it up and personalize it and get their exercise going? So this incongruency of not being able to understand the person and their specific needs really need to be addressed. So I would like to end my talk with a range of challenges to consider. Social challenges to change. We have issues around anxiety of people in terms of technology replacing human care. It's a very real concern we need to address. Technology can be an imposition and chore, particularly when there are lots of issues around people constrained with their time and workload anyway. And we don't like to think that we need anything. Yeah, we're gonna soldier on, and so that becomes a big barrier. And another issue is around logistic challenges. And Evangelia is working on a project with us at the moment, looking at the built environment and our spaces in which these technologies would go in, and what they mean about changing these robots to be able to conform to environments rather than trying to overly enforce us to change our environments and ourselves. issues around safety, support, and maintenance, and of course the technical infrastructure. Unfortunately, the UK is not one of the best in terms of networking and availability. We have old buildings with thick walls. Connectivity is a problem. Accessibility is a problem. So these result in a lot of issues. So we've been working as part of EPSRC, a UK-based network, addressing some of these issues. And I'm going to try and leave a few minutes so you can ask me questions about it. But if you scan that QR code, you'll be able to find out more about our network. And I'd like to end with trying to plug a summer school where you can come and learn more about how to develop these technologies. We've got a few funded places available as well. And none of my research would be possible without my great team at the University of Nottingham. Thank you.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Professor. We have about 5 minutes for Q&A. There's one just there and then one here.
Thank you very much. It's a nice presentation. But we are in the phase of transition to accommodate robots into our life. So I see a couple of issues over here. First thing is that, trying to integrate emotions with robots, that's a big concern, or I don't know how far we succeeded. Already Saudi gave citizenship to Sophia a few years before. And second thing is that recently in South Korea, there was a big news that a robot suicided. So how you introspect these aspects and how we can mitigate these kind of issues in the future, because we are very much in the transition phase. So there might be few more issues popping up. So do you have some insights?
Yes, indeed. So from a personal research point of view, I think we are going down the wrong road when we are trying to over anthropomorphize robots and try and delve into areas where it's not really effective. So I'm a very pragmatic person. What is it that's going to help somebody who has to stay in bed till 3:00 till their carer comes to get them out and about? Yeah. How can we support them at that pragmatic physical level? Does a robot need to understand if I'm happy or sad? And can it? And should it? That are big questions that we have to think about. And to some extent, some of the stories that we read around, sentience of robots and the citizenship business is, I think, quite a lot to do with hype and popular media. These kind of headlines do sell newspapers and create that, conversation, if you like. And we're quite a long way away from that, let me tell you. And but it is up to us to see how much of our funding and resources we continue to pump into these sort of elements when there are much more acute problems to consider. So while, yes, people are doing research in these areas, I would say we are the decision makers. Quite a lot of the funding is through our money, our taxpayer money. And I am of the mind, I run knowledge cafes with the general public, is to provide people with enough information about where the state of the art is, what are the issues from a ethical and legal perspective, so that when they are asked about their opinion, they can make an informed decision and engage in the conversation and debates in a much informed manner. So, yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much. This was fascinating, and we're doing some of this work at my university as well. But my question is something that flashed by very quickly, but I think is significant, and that is the danger of increasing dependency.
Yep.
That means that one no longer even tries. And
Yes.
I'm thinking of the scenes in WALL-E, the Pixar film,
Yeah.
Where everyone just is sitting and being served.
I totally agree. So very early on in my career, it was one of my first robotics projects. I'll never forget at a workshop, we had this Scottish gentleman. I'm not going to try and do a Scottish accent, but he said, if these wee beasties do everything for me, I might as well go and lie in a box now. And that has sort of been the driving voice in my research. from the start. And I'm very much of the mindset that these are tools. These are as much tools as their working frame or set of glasses are. And we need to be involved and keep ourselves as part of what these things are doing for us. And in our very noisy environments and worlds, it's going to be hard to get our system to work reliably. We do need the person to be able to interact with the system, to be able to say what they want done, how they want to do it, and to be able to have that pushback. No, I'm not going to go and turn on your lights because you've been sitting in that chair for 6 hours now. So how about we try and do this together? And I think it is important to retain that mindset. There's always this thing, human beings, from a physiological point of view, we've evolved to conserve energy. Yes, so if we can help it, our bodies tell us to keep seated, so we conserve energy, and to have those sugar and carbs and fat. And that's the way we've evolved. So we are having to fight against our own selves in that respect. And the balance needs to be, carefully managed. So yes, okay, I might know I need to do something, but it's painful for me. And the system is telling me to do it, and then maybe it is affecting me psychologically because I feel bad that I can't do it. So the balance and the trade-offs there are really very, need to consider these very sensitive personal issues as well.